Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I wish to thank the member for the interest in the Women's Economic Empowerment Plan. Women's economic empowerment is essential for sustainable development and inclusive growth. Former President Barack Obama stated, "The best judge of whether or not a country is going to develop is how it treats its women." Global evidence demonstrates that by dismantling social, institutional, and structural barriers and challenging gender discriminatory stereotypes and norms, and by fostering women's leadership across all facets of women's lives, we can unlock tremendous economic potential. This includes ensuring women's access to markets, control over productive resources, opportunities for decent work, bodily autonomy, and meaningful participation in economic decision-making at all levels. The upcoming Fiji Women's Economic Empowerment National Action Plan, or WENAP for short, represents the coalition government's commitment to unlocking the economic potential of Fijian women and girls, ensuring their full participation and leadership in our economy. On that note, Madam Deputy Speaker, I am honored to give a brief context and update on the WENAP. To effectively spearhead the development of this WENAP, the Ministry took proactive steps since early 2023. On April 13th and 14th of 2023, we organized a high-level technical advisory workshop. Now, this event was more than just a meeting. It represented a convergence of minds and efforts, uniting 50 leaders and experts from civil society, government agencies, the private sector, the informal sector, and women's rights organizations. This workshop aimed to foster a collective dialogue through a thorough examination of the economic roles that Fijian women hold within our society and the barriers they encounter. We identified a significant burden of unpaid work on Fijian women and girls, their overrepresentation in the informal economy, issues of bodily autonomy with high prevalence of gender-based violence as well as reproductive cancers, limited access to sexual and reproductive health rights, daily impacts of the climate crisis, limited knowledge, access, and productive use of digital technology and e-commerce, limited access to financial resources, and the presence of gender-blind policies and discriminatory norms. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Fiji Country Gender Assessment confirms that Fijian women are predominantly employed in low-paying jobs within the precarious informal sector. Only 35.2% of women are in formal employment, and they account for less than 3 in 10 engaged in paid informal work. This disparity is underscored by the labor force participation rate of 45.5% of all women, compared to 82.6% of men, revealing a significant gender gap of 38%. Moreover, the challenges extend beyond employment, Madam Deputy Speaker. Nearly 2/3 of Fijian women experience intimate partner violence, with an associated economic cost to our nation of approximately $400 million annually. That's about 7% of our GDP. In our academic institutions, despite women representing 65% of students, as is evidenced by our students who sit in the gallery today, and over half of the graduates, they face disproportionately high unemployment, particularly among young women aged 15 to 24, where 30% are neither in education, neither in employment, nor in training. And that's 3 times the rate of young men. In the MSME sector, which contributes 18% to Fiji's GDP, about half the businesses are owned by women, yet only 19% of these enterprises are registered under women's names, and they often operate in low productivity sectors. In our homes, Fijian girls and women spend 2 to 3 times the amount of time on unpaid domestic and care work compared with boys and men. A significant proportion of Fijian women lack the autonomy to make their own healthcare decisions. Notably, cancers of the reproductive organs, such as cervical and breast cancer, are the leading diseases causing death amongst women of all ages in Fiji, with these cancers being among the top 5 causes of cancer deaths. A key point from the workshop I mentioned earlier, Madam Deputy Speaker, was that women's control over their bodies is crucial, not just for health, but also for economic empowerment. A healthy woman is a productive woman. Bodily autonomy lets women make important decisions that affect both their personal and work lives. It helps them fully participate in the workforce, start or grow their businesses, and reach their economic goals. Therefore, supporting and promoting women's bodily autonomy is vital for them to succeed in all areas of their lives. I highlighted this key data because it powerfully demonstrates the coalition government's commitment to taking decisive action and steering a new course. In this context, the ministry has acted on the outcomes document from the workshop I mentioned earlier, because it underscores the importance of the WINAP. The ministry has prioritized its development by mobilizing necessary and technical resources for further consultation and development. You asked for a statement and answer. I have 20 minutes to respond. Thank you, Madam Honorable Kumar. I would hope you would be supportive of what I'm talking about. We extend our deep appreciation to the Government of Australia for their generous support in moving forward. The Cabinet has endorsed the implementation of the WINAP. Following this endorsement in February of this year, we assembled a team of experts to drive this initiative forward. The Department of Women has expanded to include a national coordinator for the WINAP, a consultant for the WINAP who collaborates closely with our WeDesk at the ministry and also our gender advisor. Chaired by the Permanent Secretary of the ministry, the Secretariat includes key society organizations like the Fiji Women's Rights Movement, DIVA for Equality, the Women's Entrepreneurship Business Council, and the Fiji Women's Funds. And we also have representatives from the private sector like ADB. The Secretariat is mandated to provide technical oversight for the consultation and development process of the WINAP. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm also pleased to announce that we have developed a robust consultation framework for the WINAP. This consultation phase is set to commence in May next month and will run until the end of July. This consultation aims to elevate awareness of the importance of women's economic empowerment, spotlighting the significant contributions of women and addressing the challenges that hinder their full participation. Madam Deputy Speaker, there are approximately 104 stakeholders in this process who are directly or indirectly contributing to the consultation of the WINAP. And these stakeholders are categorized into 9 categories. Educational institutions. Order. What was the question, Honorable Kumar? The question was to give an update on the development of the WINAP. These stakeholders from the 9 categories include educational institutions, programs and projects, development agencies, the private sector, financial institutions, networks and associations, civil society, faith-based and women's rights organizations, government agencies, the informal sector, and the like. I shall highlight to Madam Deputy Speaker that in the consultation process, we continue to lean on the expertise of women-led civil society organizations, and the engagement of NGOs, something that the former government failed many times to engage civil society organizations in the development of any government policy. Madam Deputy Speaker, a final report will be scheduled for August of this year, 2024. And also, upon completion of this consultation, we will be drafting the Women's Economic Empowerment Plan. This document is expected to undergo validation by the task force in September of this year, and of course will be submitted to Cabinet for approval. with a launch planned hopefully the end of this year or early next year. On that note, also, I wish to report to this House that the Ministry is working with the Ministry of Finance and commencing the design of the second phase of the Gender Transformative Capacity Development and Gender-Responsive Budgeting. Why is this important to highlight? Because for the first time ever in the history of Fiji, under the coalition government,
Honourable members, order members, order, honourable members.
For the first time ever in history, under the coalition government, we achieved gender-responsive budgeting. They say aye. Yes. We may have little representation in Parliament, but we certainly are result-oriented. For the first time in last year's budget, there were actual budget allocations in ministries committed to gender. So for the 3 ministries, for the National Action Plan to Prevent Gender-Based Violence, the Ministry of Youth, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Etoke Affairs have budget lines committed to the NAP-GDV. And yes, Honourable Kumar, we are spending the money. Yes, we are. In fact, Honourable Vasu and I have just returned from a workshop that has gathered our traditional leaders, so they are consulted on the way forward in order to implement the NAP-GDV, Honourable Madam Deputy Speaker. We commit to this House continually to all Fijian women and girls, and we'll be informing you of the progress of this Fiji WNAP. And we assure you that our ministry will continue to be the driving force for gender equality within our government. But I'm very grateful for the able leadership of our Prime Minister, Honourable Sitiveni Rabuka, who is a champion for gender equality and is committed to continue to put money and continue to commit to put budget, actual finances, so it's not just all talk, opposition, during your time, committed so that these action plans will be realized. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.